Welcome back to r/Neighbors from Hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. This story was posted by user Infinite Emotions on our own subreddit r/Ripe Stories, and it is titled Crazy Summer 2019. I'm not sure if this counts more as entitled people, which she definitely was, make no mistake, a Just No Mother-in-Law story, which she also was even though she was not my mother-in-law, or a Neighbor from Hell story because even though she was at the neighbors, she did not live there permanently. Naturally, this is a long saga that will be multiple posts, but I will start with the summer. Now, it's going to seem kind of long and disjointed, but I put things down as I found them out to give people the general timeline of events. Ready? Here we go. I have to explain a few things. First, the street that I live on is about 1.5 to 2 miles long. There's a road that branches off at the end of the street into a brand new subdivision that is less than 10 years old. There are 6 homes on the same side of the street as the branch off, and across the street is a farm/forest. The space, not including easement of me and my next door neighbors, is about 1 to 1.5 acres each. This is also a very small town, and the animal shelter, animal control and low-cost vet clinic are the same building. This takes place at the beginning of summer, already hot, highs average between 85 Fahrenheit to 92 F. I worked third shift in a 24-hour store and, at the time this takes place, was working 11 PM to 7 AM. Farmer Brown, so called because I just heard repeat Christmas carols non-stop not that long ago, passed away the year before last, and his land finally cleared probate, and the son who got the land decided to clear some of the forest out in order to make more arable land, and hired a logging company, or got the logging company to pay, I'm not sure which, to do it for him. The scene is set. On the first day, I am surprised to get a call from, I will call him Percy, since I like Rick Riordan. Percy from the animal shelter/control/vet clinic is calling, and my first reaction at being awoken in the middle of the day by this number is to affirm that I've already vaccinated my kitties and further action is not necessary. Percy tells me that someone called to complain that my cats are being a nuisance, so I sit up. 1 cat at the foot of the bed and 1 on the dresser, 1 on the floor and 1 in the yarn basket. I tell him I don't know what cats he's hearing about, but all of mine are accounted for and giving me dirty looks for waking them up by talking. I wish him a good day, accept his apologies for bothering me and go back to sleep. Rinse and repeat the next day and the next day. 3rd day down and one of my little darlings has developed a cough, so into the carrier and off to the clinic we go. Fortunately, I was also off that night, so I could do this. In the waiting room, I see my 2 next door neighbors with their 6-pound fluff ball Canardly, as in you can hardly tell what it is, that they adopted after moving in. Partner neighbor, I hesitate to call her his wife because I don't know if they are married, but girlfriend seems to be a little too temporary for their relationship, tells me that her mother is in town and sprayed the lawn with fire ant spray without telling them, and doggo has been coughing since. I, stupid me in hindsight, defend her by pointing out that a lot of people are horrified by their first encounter with fire ants and she probably overreacted, but meant well. Both animals get checked out, get medicated, and they agree to let me know if she decides to do it again, so I can keep kitties inside until the poison is less close to the surface. No big deal aside from the vet cost. Life goes on and Kitty is worth it. Oh, and this was the start of the logging trucks moving into the land across the street in order to fell some trees. Next day, another call, rinse and repeat the couple of days, and I am severely low on sleep. My sleep-fogged mind decides that the logging people must be calling animal control, because I'm tired and they were out surveying the land before they ever brought the trucks in, so I try to get a hold of them to ask them to stop. But I cannot get through. My calls are shunted to a pre-recorded message telling me that while logging is considered an eyesore, it is just a job and nothing personal. I was starting to take it really personally. I tried walking over there several times to speak to someone, anyone about the animal control issue, but nothing. I got escorted to the gate, I was rudely informed I was trespassing, any attempt to ask for a supervisor got me the number with the pre-recorded message. On day 3 of this nonsense, I went to my backyard to calm down and noticed that every tree limb overhanging the yard of the neighbors that have doggos had been cut down. Not the trees themselves that are firmly on my land, just the limbs. Even my sleep-addled brain thought that was odd. After all, I had just seen neighbor and partner neighbor at the animal clinic a few days ago. Wouldn't they have mentioned if they were having trouble with the branches? It made no sense. So I did what I always do, I went and asked. I learned that neighbor's mother-in-law, the entitled parent, and man, this woman is entitled, had decided my trees needed pruning while they were out at work the previous day. I did not make excuses for her this round, but asked if I could borrow their ladder to put some pitch on the trimmed areas to keep bugs from rotting the trees from the inside out, and they agreed. I did it, returned the ladder, and went back to bed, short on sleep. That night when I got up, I spoke to Mom, who said, "You are a southern young lady, act like one." So I thought about it and made a pitcher of iced tea and another pitcher of lemonade, put them in glasses on a cookie sheet and carried the whole thing over across the street. Got much further this time. A pitcher of sweet iced tea. What can be more southern than this? Anyway, when the loggers came to ask what I thought I was doing, because it is dangerous to be around logging equipment, I told them I was worried about their health because it is really easy to get dehydrated in this heat, and would they like a glass? They did. The supervisor waited for them to finish drinking their lemonade and tea before making sure I had all my glasses and helped me carry them back across the street towards my house. On the way up the drive towards the street, I asked if anyone in the company had a problem with my cats, as I've been getting calls from animal control about them. Logging supervisor said no, none of them had even come across cats. Cats don't really go investigate loud noises, and asked if I knew who was making nuisance calls to the company about the noise. I told him I could not think of anyone. I'm the only one on the street who works third and sleeps during the day, and the noise certainly does not bother me. We reached the street and each got an answer. Entitled parent was standing at the edge of the road just on her daughter's side of the property line and was glaring at us with her arms crossed. Now I am standing there, shorts and a t-shirt next to a guy in full logging personal protective gear. Hard hat, reflective jacket, steel-toed boots, the works. She starts ranting about how it is just like a WHORE to go and offer sexual favors to get her way, how this neighborhood is bad and she intends to clean it up before moving here. None of the houses were or are for sale, and I already knew she was not allowed to live with the neighbors. How the logging company is destroying the idyllic view and should be prepared for just retribution when their evil machines turned on them for the destruction they were causing. Then, without taking a breath, turned back to me and began talking about how disgusting, aggressive and violent my cats are, how they are a public health hazard and should be put down. I blame my exhaustion for not registering the threat earlier. Logging supervisor looked at me. "Who is she?" he asked. "She's my neighbor's mother-in-law," I told him, exasperated. "She doesn't even live here." If looks could kill, we would both be dead. I go back in, rinse the dishes before putting them in the sink to be washed, and get another call where I explain to Percy that the person calling him is the insane mother-in-law of my next-door neighbor and that she was calling without having even seen the cats that day. He apologized, told me he was blocking the number, and then we hung up. That night before work I go to my neighbors and quietly ask if entitled parent is supposed to be on some medication because she's clearly not taking it. I then recount the afternoon events. Hey, iced tea takes time, and neighbor sighs. Entitled parent comes onto the porch and smirks at me. "Something wrong?" she asked. "Lady, I could ask the same question. However, I ask a different one." "What do you mean?" I ask politely. She growls, I've heard nicer dog growls at me, and starts ranting about how dare I come over to accuse them of trying to poison my cats with fire and killer, how dare yell at them for legally cutting branches over their property, how dare I steal the ladder to paint the trees. As I listened to this mad rant, I realized she had done it on purpose. She was trying to stir up a conflict between the two of us where there wasn't one. I could not wrap my brain around it. Why? It made no sense. It still makes no sense. She finally reached the end of her tirade, whirled and went back into the house. Neighbor looked at me. She's leaving in 3 days. I nod. I can survive anything for a few days. After I hear her start screeching again, I decide I'm late to work and leave. Next morning I go home anticipating my first call-free day in far too long. 8 PM I get a call from the store. My coworker's child broke his arm at the babysitter's and I am the closest one there, so could I please come in early? I agree, get dressed, throw my things together and race down to the store to take over so she can get to the hospital. 9:15 I am firmly entrenched on the register dealing with the evening rush. About 12:30 in the morning, one of the officers stops by the store. A common sight as officers frequently take breaks in my store. He then comes up to me and asks where I was between 9:30 and 10:30 PM that night. I tell him I was at work, explain the situation with my coworker, take him to the office to show him the camera, complete with time and date stamp, showing me entering the store and not even leaving to take a bathroom break the whole time I was there. He nodded, thanked me and went on his way. About 3 or 4 in the morning, I was not looking at a clock this time, a group of 3 officers meet for coffee/gossip in my store and I learned that the reason I was being asked for where I was happening to be because I'd been accused of kidnapping. I of course asked them what they were talking about and, nothing loath, since everything had been dismissed somehow, they told me. About 10:30 that night, entitled parent, slightly worse for wear and looking really scared, had walked into the police station and told them that I had kidnapped her and was threatening to kill her. She said that I grabbed her at 9 and she had escaped and was afraid for her life. The officers were kind, gentle and caring right up until she had said who had kidnapped her. Small town, like I said, that is when one of them was sent to the store to confirm my alibi or lack thereof, and after all of this she was taken to the neighbors and told to stay out of trouble until she went home. When neighbor came by after she left to see if I would have a celebratory drink with him that the wicked witch of the west was finally gone, I was sorely tempted and I don't even drink. And Infinite Emotions, thank you very much for this interesting story, and as the OP mentioned, obviously there are 2 other stories to read from this incredibly entitled woman and we will read them in this video, so I suggest you stay until the end. But before you do this, please don't forget to like the video and post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support me. Thank you so much for your support, it helps my channel tremendously. And the next one is an update to the story also posted by user Infinite Emotions. The crazy mother-in-law of my neighbors came back for Thanksgiving last November. One day I got home from work and was about to go on my run when she approached me. I found this strange and would have ignored her, except that previous events have convinced me that I need to keep an eye out for this woman when she's in town so I know what is she getting into. We also live in a small town. I mean, newspapers are redundant kind of small because when something happens everyone already knows about it. Important later. So, neighbor's mother-in-law stops me before my run and at first she seems pleasant enough. She tells me that neighbor and partner neighbor have just announced they are expecting a stork delivery sometime in August. They had a healthy, bouncing baby boy. I express my congrats as I mentally catalog what I have to make a suitable baby gift. I make blankets for friends/relatives' baby showers and this woman asks,
"So when are you getting rid of your cats?"
"Excuse you, what?"
"Well, everyone knows that cats will steal a baby's breath, so you've got to get rid of them before the baby comes."
I'm sadly familiar with this lore, so I take a moment to explain. I looked at her and said, first of all, cats don't steal a baby's breath. What happens is that the newborn baby smells like milk because that is all what newborn babies eat, plus they spit it up so they try to lick up the milk that is not there, and since newborns are not built to handle the pressure of a feline on their torsos, they go squish. Second of all, no cat of mine is going to sneak into that house, pointed to neighbor's house, to get milk when they know perfectly well that they come back into mine and get a cupful just by meowing at any passing human. Before anyone has a conniption fit about how bad milk is for cats, we have lactose-free milk. Partner's neighbor's mother huffs and says,
Well, you've been warned. If you don't get rid of your cats by then, I will do it for you.
No, she did not. I stepped closer to her. If anything, I told her, happens to my cats, you will never be found. Her eyes went wide and she took a step back. You remember that. I told her before shoving off to do my morning run. I ran the loop twice. I was so annoyed. When I get back home, the neighbor stops me on my way in and explains that his mother-in-law said that I had threatened her. I put on my most sincere face and explained that I just told her to be careful at night since crime is on the rise in our town. True, by the way. I then add that 3 other 24/7 stores had been robbed this month, and since this is such a small town, he already knew that. I then told him that she had told me they were expecting, offered congratulations, and asked if he would please let me know when the baby shower was so I could bring a gift. I did not want to make an official police report because I didn't want to ruin relationships between the neighbors and me. They are good neighbors, even if the mother-in-law is a monster. What happened was the chief, small town, came into my work for coffee. We have free coffee for on-duty officers and everyone knows that I clean the machines and make sure the creamers are stocked, and I explained. I did not mention that she threatened my cats because he is old school and an animal that does not work is not worth anything, but I did mention that she's been standing outside and screaming at me when I go for my morning run, which is right after I get off work, and that it is making me very uncomfortable. I also explained that I didn't want to formally do anything because I didn't want to hurt neighbor and partner neighbor. He nodded, called me 6 kinds of idiot, and told me he would talk to them in an unofficial capacity as long as I promised to file in an official capacity when crap goes downhill. So, Christmas night, one of the officers stopped by my work to tell me what happened in the wide-eyed awe that you only get when you witness something you just cannot believe happened. First, the chief with an officer as backup told the family, neighbor, partner neighbor and mother-in-law that I was nervous with the way she kept yelling at me when I went on my morning runs, and that after what happened last summer, I have every reason to be nervous. This woman throws a tantrum, starts screaming, stomping her feet, picked up a piece of the nativity set and threw it at the chief. I later learned that the piece was a wise man. My jaw just dropped when the officer told me this. For context, this is a deeply Christian area and messing with a nativity is almost sacrilege around here. So the chief, having had enough and not caring one bit for rude entitled people, arrested her for assaulting a police officer. She went to jail and has seen the error of her ways. Okay, no she didn't. When I got off work the morning after Christmas, neighbor and partner neighbor came to meet me in tears. She told them that she had bought their mortgage and she was going to evict them if I did not drop the charges. The charges, I would like to remind you that I did not press. I think I just stared at them in astonishment for a good 5 minutes before my brain rebooted. Told them to talk to the bank, explained that someone is claiming to have bought their mortgage and ask if it is true. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Now that would have been bad enough, except that the bank manager they spoke with happened to be Jay for the sake of anonymity and because I will always have a fondness for the man in black. Jay is a notorious gossip. She cannot pass 5 people without telling all of them every detail of her day, so when she learned that not only did someone claim, falsely, that a mortgage had been bought, not only did someone threaten them with eviction, which apparently only the bank can do if they didn't do something, but that person was the mother-in-law. Well, I'm surprised her flapping lips did not herald a wind advisory, and I do mean that in the best way possible. If you are reading this, I love you Jay, never change. Even if she could get off with a slap on the wrist, not likely. Our chief has many memorable qualities, but he does hold a grudge. She couldn't even get a bail hearing because her lawyer had to appeal for an interjudicial judge. I think that is what it is called when you get a substitute judge. Because all 3 of ours were on vacation and the earliest date you could get was January 3rd. Oh, and the bank, the one the mortgage was through, is also pressing charges, because it is illegal to claim you own a mortgage you don't. Oh, and her name is in the mud in our town. Welcome to life in a small town. And the last update to the story posted by user Infinite Emotions is titled Tantrum in the Court, so this is the last part of the saga of my neighbor's crazy mother-in-law. The Friday after Thanksgiving was the bond hearing. Please note that this was not a sentencing hearing, this was just to see if she could get a bond, which is definitely not happening now. I was told that since I'm not actually in the process of pressing any kind of charges against her, my presence was not required for the hearing, so I was sleeping in preparation for work. This is what one of my customers, the bailiff, told me happened. First of all, neighbor and his wife are in the process of getting a no-contact order, which is different from a restraining order, while the police are pressing charges for assaulting an officer, desecration of sacred display, and the threats of animal cruelty/abuse. Oh, and the bank, the one that's the mortgage company for neighbor's house, is also pressing charges for real estate fraud. I had to stop the bailiff and ask about the threats of animal cruelty/abuse charge, since as far as I know, no one knew that she threatened my cats. Well, apparently she did threaten my cats to the officers at the jail. And the bailiff would not tell me exactly what she said, but did mention that if she ever gets out there, there will be increased patrols of the neighborhood, chief's order. Our chief of police is a guy who firmly believes that animals are either useful or baggage, and I don't want to know what she said for him to make this declaration. You will notice that the bailiff said, if she ever gets out, so did I. Of course, I asked him about it. She was brought into the hearing wearing her normal everyday clothes. Apparently, no one checked for possible weapons before she put them on, something that I am certain will never happen again. The prosecution came forward, listed all the charges from all involved parties, and said that she has no roots to the community since she does not live here and the people she'd been staying with are filing for a no-contact order and requested that bond be denied so that she cannot leave before the trial. The judge agreed, moved to end the case and move on to the next one. I gather the first day after a vacation is overfilled with people when the crazy woman started screaming. According to the bailiff, she was screaming something about character assassination, something about the whole town conspiring against her, pulled a knife from her pocket and held it at her own throat, demanding to be released right then, so she could show this town what it means to go against someone like her. What? What did she think she could accomplish with this? I don't know, but what she did accomplish was getting tackled by the bailiff, slapped back into handcuffs and taken to the hospital, put on ending your own life watch, which is not fun. So, more charges plus a mandatory psych evaluation. Plus she is now on ending your own life watch, which means she does not have the ability to refuse treatment. Oh, and the entire procedure is now in the lengthy process of being transferred to another judicial district because this is a small town and there's no possible way for her to get a fair trial here. Not that I think getting a fair trial will help her at this point. More importantly, according to the bailiff, it will take at least 3 months to get the case transferred because they have to ensure that transferring her won't affect her medical treatment. And the transfer is only for the charges being brought on her by the police department and the bank. The no-contact order was granted and I was going to file for a restraining order. So then the virus happened. Last I heard she was still in the hospital ward under the ending your own life watch. I cannot imagine it's been fun with everything that's been going on. If anything else happened, everyone's been too preoccupied to say, not that I blame them. And thank you very much, Infinite Emotions, for sharing this crazy, let's say, story saga about this awful neighbor mother-in-law. And guys, if you have any stories to share of your own neighbors or maybe any revenge story, I don't work here lady, anything, you are free to share it on r/ripestories on Reddit. And by the way, little pro tip, you can register on Reddit even without a valid email. You can just put in some fake email and you can still post on my subreddit. In addition guys, if you are interested in hearing more mother-in-law stories, then I suggest you head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for over 40 plus exclusive Just No Mother-in-Law videos. Thank you very much for watching and thank you so much for your support, it is very much appreciated. I hope you have a fantastic day and I see you again tomorrow.